I think the thing is, Bud, if you look at LeBron, look at the guys that he idolized. What did they have? Jordan, rings. Magic, rings. Bird, rings. So those are three guys that we know he looked up to. What does all those guys have in common? Championships.
Stand on business.
There's a reason why he left, because he wanted a championship. He felt that the organization didn't have the wherewithal, or he didn't trust them to get the requisite pieces in Cleveland, so he went to Miami. You see, it's a big relief once you have something.
Shannon Sharpe talks about LeBron James' ring culture comments. Check out what he had to say, and then I'll come back with my comments.
LeBron James is pushing back on the idea that championship rings are the only measure of greatness in basketball. On his new episode of Mind the Game podcast with Steve Nash, LeBron said, "I don't know why it's discussed so much in our sport. Why it's the end all, be all of everything. It's like you weren't a great player if you never won a championship, or if you won one, you can't be the same as this person. You sit here and tell me Allen Iverson, Charles Barkley, Steve Nash wasn't unbelievable. Oh, they can't be talked about or discussed with these guys because they won." It's weird to me. It's like saying Peyton Manning can't be in the same room with Tom Brady or Patrick Mahomes because he only has one ring. Well, Peyton has two rings. But I get what LeBron is trying to say. But that's what society, that's what social media, that's what we've done now. We've turned everything into a ring. If you don't have a championship, it's almost it. And at one point in time, it was like that with the Grammys, bud. Man, you ain't got no Grammy. Man, you ain't got no Grammy.
But sometimes that's what it takes to fuel you, though.
Come on, Shannon. You got to keep that same energy with LeBron. You know what it is. You're a champion, three-time champion, Hall of Famer. You know what rings are to a player as far as when you want to put him on that historical category. LeBron knows that he'll never surpass Michael Jordan. So let me move the goalposts. Let me change the narrative. It shouldn't be about rings. To a certain degree, I get him. But LeBron, he chased rings, so he sounds like a hypocrite right now.
Right? If you would have asked LeBron that prior to having a chip, he would have told you that's his motivation. That's his drive. That's what I want to be. I want to be placed on the mantle next to those other greats. Well, you have to look at what those other great people have achieved. You have to look at what their success is gauged by. You know what I'm saying? And who they played against, the level of competition. All of these things come into that. So, and you got chips. I don't know who he's arguing for.
He's arguing for his legacy. He's arguing because of the whole debate with him and Michael Jordan, him trying to surpass his legacy. He'll know he'll never surpass Michael Jordan's legacy only because he's 4-6 in the finals. Jordan 6-0. So with that being said, he has to change the narrative, and that's what they do at Clutch Sports. Rich Paul, everybody around him in that circle, they're going to try to do everything in their power to make LeBron James surpass Michael Jordan. And I think Shannon Sharpe's having a realization. He knows that, LeBron isn't better than Jordan, but he's with Clutch Sports. He's homies with LeBron, even though LeBron, he ain't really out there supporting him through his old little controversy lawsuit situation. But, that's a different story. But Bun B, he's kind of motivating Shannon Sharpe to, stand on business. Shannon was a great athlete, great player, but when it comes to ranking LeBron, he's automatically Team LeBron. He's in denial right now, but hopefully in this clip, he'll let it be known that he has to stand on business when it comes to LeBron and the whole ring culture comments.
And I think the thing is, Bud, if you look at LeBron, look at the guys that he idolized. What did they have? Jordan, rings. Magic, rings. Bird, rings. So those are three guys that we know he looked up to. What does all those guys have in common? Championships.
Stand on business.
There's a reason why he left, because he wanted a championship. He felt that the organization didn't have the wherewithal, or he didn't trust them to get the requisite pieces in Cleveland, so he went to Miami. You see, it's a big relief once you have something.
There you go, Shannon. You're starting to warm up. He didn't want to do this to LeBron. He wants to continue to be within that Clutch Sports circle, be in the LeBron James network. But at the end of the day, you got to call it like it is. Now, if Shannon wasn't an athlete, never played, never won a championship, was just doing sports commentary, then maybe he can be, naive and in denial. But by him being a Hall of Famer, multiple-time Super Bowl champion, he has no choice. This is what he has to do. Shannon Sharpe has to stand on business, or he's going to look stupid out there on social media.
Because it's easy for the person that says, man, I'm going to take me some time. Well, yeah, Elon Musk can take a 6-month vacation. Jeff Bezos can take a 6-month vacation. But ask him when they were building their business, did they take a 6-month vacation?
Yep,
okay.
That'll work.
Now, LeBron, did you feel this way before you had championships or after you got them? And I agree with everything he's saying. I just believe this, Bun. When we're having a conversation and I got to put EST on it, you got to have championships. Now, I'm not saying you can't be great because Charles Barkley, I'm old enough, you and I are old enough, because we remember a lot of these cats. I remember Charles Barkley. I remember Karl Malone. I remember Patrick Ewing. I remember some of these great players. But when I need to add EST, I just don't know how I can.
And again, with LeBron James talking about the ring culture and it shouldn't matter, well, why did you go from team to team? Why did you leave Cleveland initially? You could have went down as a Cleveland legend, which he probably is regardless, but you could have been with that team for 20, 22 years, however many years you want to stay in the NBA, and maybe won a championship, possibly. But why did you go from Cleveland to Miami, and then Miami back to Cleveland, and then Cleveland to LA? You wanted to win championships. You wanted to maximize how much rings you can win in your career. So now that he got the rings, now he's trying to change the narrative just because of the comparisons with him and Michael Jordan, the whole debate on who's better. So it's obvious LeBron James, he's capping right now. He's lying, trying to do everything in his power to surpass Michael Jordan. It's never going to happen.
I don't know
you
how.
come from football. So Marino, that was always the argument about Marino on every other
Barry
level,
Sanders.
up against every other standard. He was always the nemesis for the position. The only thing was, and look, I'm a Rockets fan, so we got those asterisks next to us with Jordan. We're playing baseball. You know what I'm saying? But no, I mean, it's a very, very real thing to have the want to get a championship, which is what inspires and drives a lot of people. But when you're a grander talent as LeBron, you know, quite frankly, if you want to be in that conversation, there's a couple of things missing. We know you have the talent. We know you have the skill. That's never been a question with LeBron James. You know what I'm saying? But if you want to be in that Mount Rushmore, you still have some work to do.
Yeah, LeBron knows he has work to do even at the age of 41, 42 years old. He wants to win as many championships as he can before he retires. He's trying to at least get to 5 or 6 because right now Kobe got 5. He got 4. Steph got 4. So what happens if Steph Curry runs off 2 or 3 championships in the next 5 years or so, however long he plays? Is he better than LeBron James? Maybe LeBron is looking like, look, these young players out here, they may end up winning a couple championships or they may be 4 and 5 and I may be stuck at 4. So he's trying everything in his power to change the narrative. And I know Stephen A. Smith, he has some comments. People may not like it, but when it comes to the whole LeBron and Jordan thing, Stephen A.'s been on point. So I know people like to crash out on him, but Shannon Sharpe, you got to stand on business, bro. You played football. You won championships. I know you want to be cool with LeBron, but you got to tell it like it is. LeBron James, he's lying right now.
And that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. He's actually still physically capable enough to do the work. But I think, one, I don't think this should be something that should be bothering LeBron James because he's going to succeed at a level that very few people in any sport or any business will be able to succeed. But then also, I don't know if that's something that still is potential could drive him. Because if that's who he's looking to compete with, how many more years would it realistically take him to get those extra 2 rings that he's probably looking at right now?
Yeah, no.
Yeah, if you're LeBron, I don't know if he's motivated right now to win championships. I think he's just motivated while he's actively playing to try to change the narrative. It's easy to change the narrative when you're actively playing his historical status as opposed to him retiring and doing a podcast once a week and maybe doing an interview once in a blue moon. This is the perfect opportunity for LeBron James to go all out in the media, change as much narratives as possible before he retires. He's more powerful while he's in the league instead of out the league. So it's a calculated move by him in Clutch Sports just to do everything in their power to change the narrative between him and Michael Jordan on who's better.
Like I said,
so is this to negate that argument preemptively? Is that what we doing?
I think the thing is what people hold. They say, well, you jumped. You went to Miami. You went to Cleveland. You went to L.A. And so I think, you know, he's like, the rings, And when we talk about NFL players, they say the greatest player. I mean, Dan Marino is always on the list. The name that you mentioned, and I know Dan. I've worked with him for a decade, know him very well. We shared the same agent when we played. Is that he was always on the list, greatest player to never win a championship. That was Dan Marino. Because he could throw the ball like no one else. That quick release, 5,000 passing yards, 48 touchdowns in an era when everybody ran the football and you could hold, you could punish the quarterback, you could hit him everywhere, the top of his head, even the bottom of his feet when he laid down. You could hit him there too. So, but I just think the thing is what happened is that we used to never have these arguments because we didn't have social media.
Right. We
You see, now, Bud, everybody's a coach, everybody's a GM, everybody's a former player. And no matter how much you say, I don't pay attention to it, we're trained. We do. We see the
because
we see.
Damn, Shannon, I thought you were trying to, move forward and stand on business with this conversation. Even though he said a couple things about LeBron, he's trying his best not to take it to that level, only because he wants to remain friends with LeBron. So it's sad to see such a competitor, a legend, a Hall of Famer, a multiple-time Super Bowl champion like Shannon Sharpe. He can't really tell the truth when it comes to these LeBron comments. And Shannon Sharpe, I know he's kind of, trying to find the words to try to easily say it. But Bun B, he's standing on business. Like, is LeBron James trying to change the narrative between him and Jordan? And it's an obvious move, but Shannon Sharpe, he's not all the way going in on LeBron. But I guaranteed if they didn't have this relationship like they do, Shannon, he'll be going off, because if this was an NFL player that said this in this current era, he'll be saying some stuff. If this was Tyreek Hill or anybody that didn't win a championship or maybe won one championship, if they said this in his sport, the NFL, this would be a whole different type of conversation, a whole different type of energy. So Shannon Sharpe doing everything in his power to protect LeBron, but it ain't gonna work. LeBron James will never be better than Michael Jordan.